Hello, welcome to Study Circle. Today we are going to read Class 11th Standard Political Science NCRT Chapter 6 Citizenships. This video is the summary of this whole chapter. I tried to cover all the main points of this chapter in a summary. So if you are preparing for any teaching exam, then this video is going to be very useful for you. So without wasting any much time, let's start. Citizenship. Citizenship can be defined as a full and equal membership of a political community. In the contemporary world, states provide a collective political identity to the members as well as certain rights such as people call themselves as Indian or Japanese, etc. More than the relationship between state and their members, it is about citizen relation and involves certain obligation of citizens to each other and to the society. They include not just the legal obligation imposed by state but also moral obligation to participate in and contribute to the shared life of the community. Citizens are considered to be the inheritors and trustees of the culture and natural resources of the country. So, what is the importance of citizenship or stateless? The condition of thousands of people in the world who have the bad fortune to be forced to live as refugees or illegal immigrants because no state is willing to grant them membership. Such people are not guaranteed rights by any state and generally live in a precarious conditions. Full of them For them, full membership of a state of their choice is a goal for which they are willing to struggle, such as Palestinian refugees in the Middle East. Precise nurture of the rights. It may vary from state to state, but in most democratic countries, today they would include some political rights like the right to vote, civil rights like the freedom of speech or belief, and some socio-economic rights which could include the right to minimum wage or the right to education. Equality of rights and status is one of the basic rights of citizenship. History of such rights. Some of the earliest struggles were fought by the people to assert their independence and right against powerful monarchies. Many European countries experienced such struggles, some of them violent, like the French Revolution 1789. In the colonies of Asia and Africa, demands for equal citizenship form part of their struggle for independence from colonial rules. Struggles to achieve full membership and equal rights continue even now in many parts of the world, such as the Dalit movement in India, whose purpose is to change public opinion and to influence government policy to ensure them equal rights and opportunities. So, full and equal memberships. What is the need of this equal membership? If job facilities like medical care or education, etc., are limited, demands may be made to restrict entry to outsiders even though they may be fellow citizens. India granted to its citizens freedom of movement from which is particular importance for workers. Markets for skilled and unskilled workers have developed in different parts of our country. So, division between insiders and outsiders. A demand may develop to restrict certain jobs to those who belong to the state or those who knew the local language. Resistance could even take the form of organized violence against outsiders. Resolving disputes. A basic principle of democracy is that such disputes should be settled by negotiation and discussion rather than force. This is one of the obligations of citizenship. The right to protest is an aspect of freedom of expression guaranteed to citizens in India, provided protest does not harm the life or property of other people or the state. Citizens are free to try and influence public opinion and government policy by forming groups, holding demonstrations, or by approaching to the courts. The courts may give decision on the matter or they may ask the government to address the issue. They may be a slow process. Equal rights. Whether full and equal membership means that all citizens, rich and poor, should be guaranteed certain basic rights and a minimum standard of living by the state. Urban poor. Dealing with the problem of poor in the towns is one of the urgent problems facing the government today. Significant contribution by slum dwellers to economy. Though they are labeled as they may be hawkers, petty traders, scavengers or domestic workers, etc. Viewed as unwelcome visitors. They may be blamed for straining the resources of the city or for spreading crime and diseases. Shocking condition of the slums. Many people may be crammed into small rooms with no private toilets, running water or sanitation. Life and property are insecure in a slum. Low welfare expenditure. On services such as sanitation or water supply, poor and migrants, awareness about the condition of the urban poor is growing among governments, NGOs, and other agencies and among the slum dwellers themselves. For instance, a national policy of urban street vendors was framed in January 2004. The policy was intended to provide recognition and regulation for the vendors to enable them to carry on their profession without harassment so long as they obeyed government regulation. Awareness for their rights. They are beginning to organize the demand they are beginning to organize to demand the rights. They have sometimes even approached the courts. Even a basic political right like the right to vote may be difficult for them to exercise because to be included in the list of voters a fixed address is required and the squatters and pavement dwellers may find it difficult to provide this. Issue of tribal people and forest dwellers. These people like tribal and forest dwellers are dependent on access to forest and other natural resources to maintain their way of life. Threat to their way of life. Pressure of increasing population and the search for land and resources. Pressure from commercial interest wanting to mine the resources which may exist in forest or coast. Government are struggling with problem to how to protect these people and their habitat without at the same time endangering development of the country. This is an issue that affects all the citizens, not just tribal people. Equal rights for citizens. Equal right for citizens need not to mean that uniform policies have to be applied to all people since different groups of people may have different needs. So conclusion, need of the new interpretation of right of citizenship. Due to changes in the world situation, the economy and society, the formal laws regarding citizenship only form the starting point. Concept of equal citizenship. Providing equal rights and protection to all citizens should be one of the guiding principles of government policies. Citizens and nation. Concept of nation state. One of the earliest assertions regarding the sovereignty of the nation state and democratic rights of citizens was made by the revolutionaries in France in 1789. Nation states claim that their boundaries define not just a territory but also a unique culture and shared history. The national identity may be expressed through symbols like a flag, national anthem, national language, etc. National identity. The national identity of a democratic state is supposed to provide citizens with a political identity that can be shared by all the members of the state. Most countries tend to define their identity in a way which makes it easier for some citizens to identify with the state than others. It may also make it easier for the state to extend citizenship to some people and not others. Assimilation into national culture easier for some groups. For example, France is a country which claims to be both secular and inclusive. People retain their personal beliefs and practices in their private lives. It is not always simple to define what is public and what is private. Criteria for granting citizenship. In countries such as Israel or Germany, factors like religion or ethnic origin may be given priority when granting citizenship. Background. The Indian scenario. National movement. The movement for independence was a broad based on and deliberate attempts were made to bind together people of different religions, regions, and cultures. Provide full equal citizens to groups such as the SC and scheduled caste and scheduled tribe, many women who had not previously enjoyed equal rights. Some remote communities in the Andaman and Nicobar Island who had little contact with modern civilization, etc. Citizenship in India. The provisions about citizenship in Constitution can be found in Part 2 and in subsequent laws passed by Parliament. Essentially democratic and inclusive notion of citizenship. Citizens can be acquired by both citizenship can be acquired by birth, descent, registration, naturalization, or inclusion of territory. The rights and obligations of citizens are listed in the Constitution. There is also a provision that the state shall not discriminate against citizens on grounds only of religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth, or any of them. The right of religious and linguistic minorities are also protected. Struggles and controversies. The Dalit movement or struggles of people displaced by development projects represent only a few of struggles where people feel that they are being denied full rights of citizenship. The Supreme Court gave an important decision regarding the rights of slum dwellers in Olga Telly's case against Bombay Municipal Corporation in 1985. Said Article 21 of the Constitution, which guaranteed the right to life, include the right to livelihood. Now, what is universal citizenship? Assumptions. Full membership of states should be available to all those who ordinarily live and work in the country, as well as to those who apply for citizenship. What is wanted and unwanted visitors out? Each state fixes criteria for the grant of citizenships. These would generally be written into the constitution and laws of the country. Problem of stateless people or refugees. Border of states are still being redefined by war or political disputes. They may lose their homes, political identity and security and be forced to migrate. If no state is willing to accept them and they cannot return home, they may be forced to live in camps or as illegal migrants. The UN has appointed a High Commissioner for Refugees to try to help them. Difficulty and refugee policy. It poses two difficult humanitarian and political problems for many states. Many countries may not want to accept unmanageable number of people or expose the country to security risks. India prides itself on providing refugees to persecuted peoples as it dealt with the Dalai Lama and his followers in 1959. Only a relatively few of them are eventually granted citizenship. Some problems pose a challenge to the promise of democratic citizenship, which is that the rights and identity of citizen would be available to all the people in the contemporary world. Global citizenships. It interconnected world. Telecommunication. New means of communication such as internet and television and cell phones have brought a major change in understanding world. Develop sympathies and shared concerns. As new modes of communication have put us into immediate contact with developments in different parts of the globe. Supporters of globe citizenships work towards global citizenships. Although a world community and global society does not yet exist, people already feel linked to each other across their national boundaries. Failure of states in some sphere. The concept of national citizenship assumes that our state can provide us with the protection and rights, but states today they are faced with many problems which they cannot tackle by themselves. It might take it easier to deal with problems which extend across national boundaries, which therefore need cooperative action by the people and governments of many states. Supporting states. Equal citizenship within a country can be threatened by the socio-economic inequalities or other problems which might exist. Some problems can ultimately may only be solved by the governments and people of that particular society. Martin Luther King. What was his view or opinion? He was a black leader of civil rights movement against inequalities that existed between black and white population in USA. Such inequalities were maintained by a set of law called segregation law, through which the black people were denied many civil and political rights. King gave many arguments against the prevailing law of segregation. In terms of self-worth and dignity, every human person in the world is equal regardless of one's race or color. Segregation is like social leprosy on the body on the body politic because it inflicts deep psychological wounds on the people who suffer as a result of such laws. King argued that the practice of segregation diminishes the quality of life for the white community also. They create artificial boundaries between people and prevent them from cooperating with each other for the overall benefit of the country. He gave call for peaceful and non-violent resistance against the segregation law. He said in one of his speeches, we must not allow our creative protest to degenerate into physical violence. Citizenship, equality and rights. A widely accepted formulation of the citizenship was provided by British sociologist T. H. Marshall (1893 to 1981) in his book Citizenship and Social Class 1950. The key concept in Marshall's idea of citizenship is that equality. This implies two things: quality of the given rights and duties improves, quantity of people upon whom they are bestowed grows. Marshall sees citizenship as involving three kinds of rights: civil, political, and social. Civil rights protect the individual's life, liberty, and property. Political rights enable the individual to participate in the process of governance. Social rights give the individual access to education and employment. So, this is the summary of this whole chapter. I tried to cover all the main points of this chapter. So, if you like this video, do like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.